Hello and welcome to another episode of Backyard Progression. I'm Bronwyn Kenku, and this is my backyard. Let's take a look. So, uh, we are in the aftermath of some flooding. We are in fake spring, which is a season in this area where we get a bout of unreasonably nice weather right in the middle of winter. No idea why, just kind of works out that way. But one of the main factors of it is 7 years ago, around now, I started this whole project. And I'm a little nostalgic for it. Like, it all started by getting rid of a way overgrown rosebush and discovering, like, that you can reclaim spaces in your own life. And that translates to living your life normally. It's one of those situations where, like, if something's bothering you, you can take care of it. It is important to not overthink a thing, not treat it like it's sacred or too much. Like, if I thought about everything I did over the past 7 years as a single project, it's impossible. There's no way. It's unreal how that kind of thing works. So, if you just do a little bit every day, be it one dish, put away one pair of clothes, make it a thing you do when you're taking a break, go for it. So, something wild happened here. There used to be a waterfall, and the creek gravel started moving down and away. Uh, it gets a little bit more highlighted in the video for this week, but this was pretty much my first reaction to, like, hey, what happened here? Like, what's going on with the creek? Because I do a lot of investigation of the creek. It's one of those situations where it's a resource that provides a lot of different aspects of the things you need. And gravel is one of them, actually. Aside from running water, which is generally more clean than stagnant water, it's almost always the way to think about it. Um, so here's more gravel that's just piled up. So I can shovel that out and raise up parts of the land to better mitigate some of this water pooling. So I'm planning on moving some of that gravel up into the boggy space up there. See if I can't keep the mosquito population down. Because they love me, and I would prefer they didn't. So, um, feeling really good about the whole project. It's really nice. Love seeing the animal tracks. Love that this is a more traversable space. Morning, Andy. How's it going? Uh, so the creek has some wild changes, and I was just talking about using the gravel to improve some of the boggy spaces. But it's a lot of work shoveling gravel. What can you do? But great workout. So, I'm still trying to grok out what to do with this space. It's really nice. It's just really far into the woods at this point. Um, I suppose it feels further than it is. It's a 5-minute walk. I should really reframe that, because that's part of this whole thing is reframing. So if I think it's only 5 minutes away, it makes it feel much smaller, because it feels like it's, halfway through the property, or like it's just this far away thing. But when we make our big tasks feel smaller, there's more chance we'll actually complete them. Because whittling things away, like I've been doing, is such a great tactic. To be fair, the other tactic I love and utilize is to gamify your work. When it becomes fun, becomes a game, has points, has rewards, you can really see progress very quickly, because then you're doing it for leisure. And if you're doing something for leisure, you're going to just end up doing better at it. It's a shame more offices don't see it that way. And when I feel like too often in workspaces, you should let people slack a little bit. Gotta play on their phone just a touch, just to take the edge off. They're bothered. They just need a break from the nonsense. It's cool. It's fine. As long as they're getting their work done, why should it matter? Because if you get really uh, into a position where you hate your job, you are going to find infinite ways to cut corners and do as little as possible and grind out like not a second longer than you need to. Just be as lax as possible. Because people don't like being exploited. They don't like being told what to do or how to do their job. It's usually the number one tagline is, "Don't tell me how to do my job." Especially when you're really good at it. It's it's amazing to me that a lot of game companies don't seem to understand what makes their game fun. And it's it's so shocking sometimes that it just puts you off words and like makes you think less of the company. So Konami recently put out a survey for Master Duel, which is their digital card version of the TCG and OCG, which, that's been going for just over a year now. And in their survey, they were asking, what do you think about the deck editor? Is it fun? Like, who okayed this question? Like, the deck editor is not supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be functional. And a year in, and you still don't sort cards alphabetically. Like, there's no option to do that. And there's a bunch of cards that are just words, like one for one, or there can be only one. And they are physically impossible to search because it's searching the text as well as the name. So it's shocking in some regard. It makes you wonder, like, how if the PR team talks to the dev team whatsoever. And I have the feeling that most don't. It's unfortunate and upsetting. Um, at the same time, a year, I think it was like a year later, uh, there was actually a drop for the Chrono Trigger remaster or re-release, I forget which, and it made it better and more able to play. It's a little, the timing's a little off sometimes, but oh, this is another scenario. Like this used to be a waterfall, like right here, right? Like this whole space was higher. Totally crazy. I can't even figure out what happened to all that gravel or how that would have looked to see the a whole ass waterfall disappear, just eroded overnight. I look at it a little bit more closely in the next video, but all the same, like, wow. But yeah, like, there are certain features like, it's like asking if a settings menu is fun. Like, no? Question marks? Um, in the current hit craze in Theatrhythm for Final Fantasy or whatever the tagline is, I think it's Barline. Uh, really interesting game, really good rhythm game, really odd menus. That could use a once over probably, but it's been iterated upon a couple times now, so I don't think that's going to happen. But what blows my mind about some of the accessibility controls you can do is you can speed up or slow down the uh, the button presses basically as much or as little as you want. Well, to two speed, to double speed, or to half speed, and it doesn't change your score, doesn't change the amount of stuff that's happening, which kind of blows my mind. Like, and that's kind of just like a hidden accessibility like feature that I couldn't even try to explain where it is because I think you have to be like changing your party or like on the point in which you go into a stage. There's a little icon where you push like Y or something, or what would be like triangle, maybe for PlayStation folk. And it's just opens up this weird little menu where you can change some of the things. Turn down the button press confirmation-y noise so you can actually hear the music a little bit better. It's it's kind of wild because like I appreciate the rhythm aspect of a game and like I'll often think about the rhythm as which I'm walking, but when your rhythm game doesn't actually follow the rhythm of the song, it gets really confusing. Uh, but moreover, let yourself have accessibility options. I do appreciate that aspect. Hmm. Sorry about that. So, getting out and away, let yourself have accessibility options. If you need, it's not cheating. I know there are a lot of people who think accessibility options are cheating. They're not. They're trying to make your life a little easier for the things that you need. This breaking from that for a second, this being super muddy and retaining water has been a problem for a while. So I've taken it upon myself to try to fix it. And I feel like I've done a pretty good job here. So you can see that this is still flowing with water. This whole space is flooded through. I have to kind of board to get because of all of this gravel here being misplaced. Keep an eye on that. That'll become important later. But so I even fall victim to this because power tools feel like cheating if I'm working out in the forest. And it doesn't feel like I'm doing the work if I'm not carrying everything back by hand, if I'm not, like cutting it all down by saw or axe, or by hand even. But I should really give myself some space to accept the concept of letting yourself have some break, some rest. If you need it, take it. We're gonna switch right over to the next video. Bam. Getting way better at that. So I feel like there's a natural rhythm to all of the things you do. Chopping wood comes to mind. There's a certain down, over, over, to like clear, create new space. Clear, create new space. And washing dishes can have that same kind of thing. There's a lot of just like little bits in our life that have rhythm to them that we don't necessarily pay attention to. It got really cold today, which is a little weird and a little unfortunate for the project that I want to do because the gravel freezes together. And there is this being dammed up a little bit. I brought a walking stick so I can actually get that flowing a little bit nicer. And too often when we are upset and we do make a mistake in a rhythm game, it puts us on tilt and we end up making more mistakes. And that's really hard and it feels really bad. And it might be better to just like pause if because like Theatrhythm does do that well in that they give you a 3-2-1 countdown to get back into the game, which I feel like most rhythm games that let you pause do that as well, but all the same, just give yourself a second to understand your mistake and move on from it. Because when you get off that rhythm, suddenly things have gone haywire. So if you're one step behind, all of the next steps that you would just naturally do are suddenly wrong when they're usually right. And that can lead to some very disastrous consequences, especially in science. But all the same, still super shocked at this little waterfall being gone. A little bit more aware of it this time and wanted to really showcase that it's just not even there anymore. But I feel like the issue I ultimately have with rhythm games that stops me from enjoying a lot of it is they really demand perfection more than any other game that I'm aware of. There was a stream I was watching where a person was playing and they triple S like full chain, did the whole thing, and because they didn't get the ultra critical shiny whatever on some of the chain, they were like, "Oh, that wasn't that great of a run." I'm like, "Are you serious? Like, you got high, like the highest ranking, did the whole song, and it's just probably a hardest difficulty, but just that wanting of perfection is too much for me. I can't. Uh, I like getting better. I like mastery, and being able to do full chains on the easiest setting, and like uh, feeling good about like learning the way you handle a lot of the different aspects of the game uh, feels really good. Being able to move into that like normal difficulty, but it's one thing when it's your choice, and it's another when it's progression based. Now I know the Theatrhythm doesn't gate anything that I'm aware of behind you have to do this on normal or extreme or impossible or whatever. So that's solid. Also, plane overhead. We live nowhere near a airport. Like Buffalo is the nearest. It's like an hour or so away. Anyway, so that's great. But I know there are some. I think Rhythm Heaven does this where it's like, well, you need to be good at this exact thing. You need to do it perfect, or we're not letting you see more of the content that you might be better at. You might be worse at it, but at the same time, like there's too many things like that in life. Um, I feel like a lot of ADHD kids read tons of books when they were younger. They could just plow through them. They had this great mind. They could understand and like explain through a lot of concepts. But when it comes to taking a test and you need to apply it under pressure, suddenly they falter. Suddenly, like, this otherworldly ability to explain like what's going on does not help them if it does not lead to what the test is looking for, this small box in which they want you to live. And that's gating in its own right as well. And it's such a shame that more math tests didn't let people use calculators. They may now. I don't know. But like cuz there's a way to show that work anyway. It's moved well beyond the world of you're not going to have that in real life. Like, well, what if I did? Even before smartphones, I did carry around a calculator in my car, purse, or backpack because it is a useful tool. And it's it's interesting that uh, we don't have these accessibility options. Also, there's random sand. I was like, this is not a sandy style set of gravel, so I'm really interested in what just what happened in the downflow. But one of the coolest things that really changed some of my mind in high school math was the check. You plug in the uh, the answer for your question, and then does that work? And sometimes that's even easier than doing the problem. And too often in testing scenarios, that works better. kind of a shame that they give you multiple choice answers that you can fill into these algebraic formulas. Huh. But it's one of those scenarios where, like, I understand it's supposed to test your mastery, but we are lazy. We do not want to do more work than we have to. When you stunt a kid and say, you've got to show your work, when they're doing it in their head, and it makes complete sense, and they're getting the right answer, and they can continually, like, show that they understand the process, but writing it down is such, especially with Common Core. Believe me, I hate the way they try to make you explain things in Common Core, because while it is what you're doing in your head, it sucks to explain. Like, having watched Let's Players and gamers throughout my life, it's uh, it's one thing to be able to explain your process, and especially in card games like Yu-Gi-Oh, uh, to explain through your turn. And I think that is a real skill, because there are a lot of people who will play through their turn silently, and you're like not quite sure what they're doing, and they might miss a step. And too often, the communication aspect of interacting with people gets lost in, some people aren't good at it, some people uh, can't really speak their mind, it doesn't translate into words. um, they're the people who can only think in pictures likely have a harder time putting their thoughts to words, whereas the people who think in words, who can't do pictures, are really good at articulating things. But when you, like, have to imagine a shape and then, like, rotate it, like, what's on the backside, how does this angle meet this angle, and, like, suddenly it's just, it's non-Euclidean, it doesn't work, it's too odd to describe. And I've met some people in life that have that ability to, like, really take something apart in their head, like all the screws, all the, like, people who are perfect for computer aided drafting and design, that whole world of just understanding an object. And then there are other people who can do that same thing with a sonnet or a verse and really appreciate what literary things got done. Or even better, a rap, because like, it's so interesting that growing up with Eminem specifically, uh, he has an undeniable understanding of language and rhythm and the way words work together. It's uncanny. And while his subject isn't the greatest for children, it's still it was still interesting and drawing because of the lyricism, because of the ability to chain these words together in good sequence and in good beat. It was so fascinating. But we're not asking, but, well, in school we are asking the lyrical people, the to be jack of all trades. There, it's I feel like one of those things where Einstein did not do well in English class, kind of a thing, where like you don't necessarily have to be a well-rounded human to be really good at the thing that you're good at. So give yourself space, give yourself accessibility, let yourself use tools when you need to, because not everyone can do the same thing. It's one of those scenarios where you can struggle with a thing and try to fit into the box that society tells you is right. Um, but too often, you know your body better, you know your mind better than anyone. So you need to decide what's right for you. It's such an important point of growth to have that. I'm going to continue using the tools that I use because I like them, because they've been good for my body. That being said, if a thing comes up in the future and I need a better tool, I might get it. Especially with affiliate looming in Twitchland. It should be today or tomorrow, depending on numbers. But I will have gotten affiliate, and that'll be nice. It'll be good to have more options for things to do and ways to play around and enjoy a channel. Like, it's so interesting to try to to understand and go through the motions, because when you're an active observer of something and you do it for a long time, it's one of those situations where like you're aware of the social norms, you're aware of the situation, and for the first time in this whole process, I was scared to stream today because of the way that Twitch wants you to just be a viewer machine. They want to get that revenue from people viewing your channel. And that's unfortunate, because if I have a bad day today, it could further ruin my chance to get affiliate. Which is a really low bar, in all honesty. It's one of those situations where there's pressure on you to perform in a way that doesn't actually affect your brand whatsoever. I still think there are people out there who are producing amazing content that don't have a lot of follows, don't have affiliate, don't have any of these other little pieces. And it's a shame, because there are perks and there are aspects to that get better with um, these different different goings on. So, in the world of struggle, I created a little bit of a path for this water to take, because I really tend to walk this path more than anyone, and there's just a ton of water traversing through it. Now, the trick with water is it is in a high place and it wants to get as down as possible. Thinking of the elements, like ground is as down as possible, sky is as high as possible, fire is down and wants to go up, water is up and wants to go down, and wind is side to side. But uh, so to fix water in spots that you don't want it, you need to raise up the level of the banks so that it can be contained, or B, lower a place where you'd prefer it to flow. So you either make a channel for something to flow, or put so much earth that it has to move down to a different place. So that's my current project and what I'm going to work on for the week. Because there's a lot of gravel in a lot of spots and a lot of water that I want to not be there. So, thank you all for watching. It's been another wonderful week, and I hope everyone has a better week, has a better time, and we can all hope for warmer weather and accessibility to things that aren't currently accessible. So, till next week, folks. Have a great one. Remember, like, follow, subscribe, all that jazz. Check out the Twitch at twitch.tv/BronwynKenku.